Welcome to the Keep Baseball Great podcast, where we're all about reminding baseball fans why they love the game. In today's episode, we're going to talk with Andrew Faris with Fielder's Choice Goods, and I'm super excited to talk with him. He is a good dude and loves baseball, so it's really cool to hear his passion of baseball through these questions that we get to ask him. Some quick highlights. We get to hear Andrew share some of his favorite baseball historical moments and memories. We're going to hear Andrew's greatest moment of his life. And don't tell his wife or kid this. Plus, a sneak peek into some upcoming Fielder Choice Good projects. And you don't want to miss Andrew's insight into some of the life lessons baseball has taught him and how he actually still uses those today. So, really cool insight on that. Plus, he's got a gift for us listeners, so make sure you tune in. And so, without further ado, here's our interview. Well, hey, Andrew, how's it going? And thanks, man, so much for joining us on the Keep Baseball Great podcast.
Man, Drew, so fun to be here and to talk about good things about baseball in the midst of all things coronavirus and all that stuff. It's good to just talk about what we love about baseball. So.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks again. So before we kind of jump into our questions, I would love to for you just to give our listeners a quick view of who you are and then also who Fielder Choice Goods is. So I'm a big fan of what you guys are doing. So.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it. So I am I'm the person in charge of running FCGoods. FCGoods makes wallets and most of the other accessories, some other accessories as well, out of vintage baseball gloves. We do some hats and stuff like that too, and have some other stuff come down the pipeline actually. But definitely the core of what we sell is wallets, handcrafted, really beautiful leather wallets made out of vintage baseball gloves. So we go and collect vintage gloves from all over the place. People ask all the time, like, how in the world do you guys come up with enough gloves to do this? And it is a challenge. But we work with collectors and people selling one at a time and everything in between, and compile gloves. And we work with a really talented team of leather craftsmen, sometimes in the U.S. and then actually the core flagship series are called the Classics. Our team is in the Dominican Republic, so another baseball hotbed, crafting beautiful premium quality leather goods out of vintage baseball gloves. So it's been a really fun project. It was actually founded originally in Long Beach, California. I'm in LA, but founded in Long Beach in I think 2009. Our founder John was doing it himself as a hobby, just like a fun thing to do on the side, cutting up old gloves and turning them into wallets. But as you can imagine, as some of his baseball loving friends along with him got wind of it, they were like, hey, I want one. And so a hobby kind of became a business, but not a big enough thing for him to like make his whole life, but also like too big for him to kind of keep managing. So then he came to me and some of my business partners and said, hey, can we turn this into something bigger? And so we are helping him do that and now kind of lead that side of things. And so so it's existed in some measure or another for some time now. But really in the last couple of years, we've kind of been able to figure out ways to turn it into something that's a little more accessible for a broader audience. And we really love that. I mean, you can read any of the reviews on our sites and on any of our products. And everybody from, we saw one the other day, if somebody sent us a glove to do custom, which we certainly can do, and said, this glove is probably 90 years old, from New York, my grandfather's glove, and like to be able to have this and carry it around with me, just you don't even know what it means to me, and the fact that you guys did such a great job. So like stuff like that is just like is awesome. Like I'm just a deep baseball fan personally, and was well before I ever doing anything with FCGoods, and so I know what that means to somebody, and so those kinds of things are great. And from there all the way through people who are just buying from our classic series, going like, this is just, it meant the world, and a lot of gifts and things like that. Somebody opening it and going, my boyfriend loved this, my dad loved this, whatever. So go poke around fcgoods.com, and we'll do that. I think we said we would do a free monogramming. So we'll customize it. We normally charge $25 to customize the leather with your initials and that sort of thing. But if you go to our site, fcgoods.com, and use the code, we'll just say Keep Baseball Great. Use the code Keep Baseball Great for this podcast. Just Keep Baseball Great. We'll float that cost for you. So save you $25 if you want to personalize it for yourself or somebody else. there you go.
Sweet, dude.
Yeah.
No, that's really cool. And that's a lot of the reasons why I wanted to have you guys on was just the real cool stories that I saw. I think I've been following FCGoods probably since close to the start. I mean, I remember looking at the website and it being about as bare basic as it could be, but I was remember thinking like, man, this stuff is really cool, and just the memories they could create. And so it's been really cool to see that growth process, and just in the company, but
Yeah,
also
I
in
appreciate that
everything.
you've noticed. We put a lot of time into it. I almost asked to get my graphic designer Robbie on here. He's a big Angels fan,
Oh,
sadly,
cool.
he does all of our design work, including like lots of hand lettering stuff. But I work with him obviously professionally, but like I just I'm a fan of his work. Like I'm not a
Yeah.
designer at all, and I just like if you go to our site, you'll see some of the stuff we're talking about. Poke around our limited edition series. We put a lot of work into those. Like I just think his stuff is rad.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he does a killer job, and makes just he has a major attention to detail on all things vintage baseball and all that stuff too. So yeah,
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
fun to
So
work with him.
I'm a graphic designer
Oh,
also.
okay.
And
I thought, yeah.
so I really appreciate, that stuff.
Okay.
So,
And you approve.
oh yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah.
Great,
So
great.
design and baseball, you got me hooked. So
Okay, great. We'll have to follow up. I'll have to get you connected to Robbie.
yeah.
He's at Robbie Aronson on Instagram, and actually his whole feed is like it's Aronson at Robbie Aronson. His whole feed is like all these treatments he does of like um, current players. Like he did one for Al Kaline the other day when Al Kaline
Oh,
passed,
nice.
and it's just like all of these really cool designed up sort of like backgroundy kind of images.
Okay.
And he's even done some process videos on like kind of what work goes into it and stuff. So yeah, go check that out too. He does a really cool job.
Totally. Totally. Yeah. So, and not only the design stuff, but the story that you really tell through design, through the pictures, and through that stuff is really, really cool. So,
Thanks, man. I really
yeah,
appreciate that a lot.
yeah, of course, of course. Well, cool. So, Keep Baseball Great podcast. We ask 5 easy questions that all kind of center around what keeps baseball great. So, I'd love to dive into those questions with you. You ready?
Awesome. Yep.
Awesome. All right. So the first one, just all about the history. So give me some of your favorite baseball historical moments and why. So, and that can be
Yeah.
broad to whatever you feel like is good.
Well, there's some easy ones for me, right? So, okay. So, first of all, I'll say the FCGoods project has made me dive into
Oh yeah.
baseball history in a way that was different. So, like, I'm a huge stat dork, like sabermetrics guy and all that stuff. And so, modern baseball, like, I've been deep on since getting really into all that stuff for the last bunch of years. And I just like I'm 36. And I just like always have loved baseball, like just a huge part of my life. But I wasn't deep on baseball history, and so like one of the really fun things for me about this FCGoods project has been like because it's all vintage, like we've just been diving into all of that stuff. So there have been some stuff that has popped up in that project um, that have been really cool. So one example of that would be uh, going going back through and seeing Nellie Fox's career,
Mm,
White Sox second baseman in the 50s mostly, and sort of the heart of the Go-Go Sox, 1959. That has been really fun to go do. We did a limited edition series made out of Nellie Fox signature series gloves. Famously, Nellie Fox was a great defender, and so he was just a blast to go check out. Like I think he would have been just an absolute like mega star today relative to stuff. He's really short.
yeah.
If you don't know his story, and incredibly slappy. I think discovered that probably the third hardest hitter to strike out in baseball history. People obviously struck out less in that era, but I mean, just with absolutely no power at all, was so good at putting the bat on the ball, and just like he just played the game the way that it's just fun to watch, right? So incredible defender, famously gritty and hardworking. Yeah, really, really tough out at the plate. I think he had the 29th most hit by pitches ever, which I like
That's crazy.
I have a soft spot for that skill set. The people who like go up there and just like get on any way you can,
Yeah, right.
the Craig
Craig
Biggios of the
Biggio.
world.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
yeah.
Chase Utley, those kinds of guys. Um, So yeah. So anyway, so Fox was a lot of fun to dig into, and like literally every photo of him has. I'm not a big tobacco guy, but there's still something classic about a giant thing of chaw in his
Right.
cheek, So yeah, so he's a lot of fun. I also have a funny little soft spot for Ted Kluszewski, who played for a little bit with big giant first baseman, because I don't know how this isn't more famous, but Kluszewski, he cut the sleeves off of his shirt, so he played sleeveless and was a big pipey
No way.
first baseman. He had 3 really good seasons for the Reds. Um, he's a 40 home run guy for a while there. He was actually on that Go-Go Sox team for a little bit too. But just it's hard. The images of him is another guy who I think like people I think they would lose their minds at him today because he's just this giant muscly dude. So anyway, so that's been like some of the fun stuff to get into there. But there's no question two moments especially as a Dodger fan for me. One of them is just all things Jackie.
Yep.
It's fun to be rooting for the team of Jackie Robinson, and another guy who I feel like I've just gotten deeper on the last bunch of years. I think Jackie is probably underrated as a player because his cultural significance is so massive that people sort of just, I think, forget how freaky good he was. He was so good. I mean, just an unbelievable hitter, unbelievable defender. So I think he's really fun. I think it's like 18 steals of home in his career, which is still tied for the record.
Crazy, yeah.
I mean, it's just like another guy who I just would have loved to watch him play. But then the number one moment, no question about it, is Kirk Gibson's home run.
Nice.
Yep. Everything about that to me is just play that back in your mind and think about how storybook it really is. Like the guy is injured. He's facing Eckersley. He gets the 3-2. The only possible way that moment could be better is if it was game 7 or something,
Right.
Otherwise, it is like the most perfect story you could imagine as a baseball fan. Walk off. Like it's a 3-2 count. And then the thing that's also so great about it is, and I will unabashedly tell you that the greatest broadcaster in the history of sports called it, and nobody can argue with me about that.
Nope.
Sometimes I just play back in my mind that Vince Scully on the spot came up with the line, "In a year that has been so improbable, the impossible has happened." Like just the way that rolls off your tongue, like the command of English in that moment after giving the crowd a minute to cheer. And it's just like everything about it is so perfect. It gives me goosebumps to think about it again because of just, it's everything that can be good about baseball is sort of a million storylines all coalescing into this one moment told by the best storyteller around in the game. So for me,
that's awesome. Yeah. That moment was really cool. Did you see the 30? I think it was a 30 by 30 about that home run. But it's just, I mean, it's exactly what you're saying. I'm pretty sure it was a 30-30 or some kind of documentary. But I mean, you're right. Just everything kind of all coming together for that one moment. Phenomenal. That's what I love about baseball. I love about the historical moments is just you look back and you're like, did that really just happen? And you're just like, yeah, it did. So it's really cool.
People sometimes dog baseball, right, on like the fact that the action isn't so continuous, like something like basketball or whatever, right?
Right.
But that's actually exactly what makes that moment great. Is that
100%.
There's so much tension, even in every pitch in that at bat. Especially as Mike Davis goes from first to second, and like at every possible step, with each pitch, there's this like little story that's being told, right? There's rising action as Eckersley winds and delivers, and then there's a little climax as the ball comes to the plate, and then the air kind of comes out, and then finally you get to 3-2, and it's all that same thing over and over again. And just the nature of the moment means that because everything stops on it, the cameras of your attention is zoomed so perfectly in.
Yeah.
So
Well,
so it just
and the balance.
Yes.
Goes back and forth. So this team, he gets 2 strikes and he's up, and then so it's really cool. I totally agree.
People forget about that game too. That the way that was a 4-3 game, and Gibson made it 5-4. I think people just forget, unless you, like me, grew up memorizing the highlights tape from that game, which I did. Like every morning, I would watch it before school.
Awesome.
But the way that the A's scored in the first inning, and the A's, of course, were very much supposed to win that World Series, was that in the first inning, Tim Belcher was pitching for the Dodgers because Orel Hershiser, who was incredible that year, had just pitched for the Mets in the game against the Mets in the previous series, so he wasn't available. So Belcher, who was a rookie, I think, is pitching game 1 for the Dodgers. And then the first inning, the first 4 batters come up, and Jose Canseco hits a grand slam to put the A's up 4-0 in the first. And you just go like, oh, we see how this is going to go.
Right.
That was Canseco's 40-40 year. Like, so it just looked like everything that you would expect, which is the A's were going to dominate. And then the Dodgers claw back to 4-3 and then win that way. And it's like, I mean, that's just perfect.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Yeah, so good. So good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I love that. So the second question, moving in, again, part of sharing those moments, those historical moments even, is just sharing them with friends and family. So do you have kind of a special moment that you share, a baseball memory with family or friends?
Yeah. Actually, in some ways, it's that '88 World Series stuff, because of like, it's actually my mom who's the bigger baseball fan than my dad, and so just like I grew up, like I said, watching that highlight series tape, and just seeing that over and over again was just something that I kind of shared with her growing up for sure. I think more recently, it's my wife, who is from Wheaton, Illinois, outside Chicago, a whole family of Cubs fans.
Oh.
My wife and I went and watched the 2016 World Series in LA at a Cubs bar, and so that series also got to, the Cubs bar was very full in the beginning of the series, and it was a little bit of a trek for us to get to this Cubs bar, but it was worth it. And so anyway, so we go, and you get to like game 5, I think it was, and the Cubs looked out of it, down 3-1 in the series to the Indians, and the bar was like starting to get towards half empty. Like, people were losing hope. It looked like it was over or whatever. But man, game 7, my wife and I mean, there's no way, like, that if the fire marshal had showed up to that bar, that they would have allowed people. Like, it was wall to wall people.
Oh man.
Everybody rooting for the Cubs, and I'm a huge Dodgers fan, but I have an easy time. The Cubs are easy to root for. I think they're a fun team, and so to see their streak end in that, and to do that with my wife, was just like a blast. So that game, and then of course, same thing. That game was so crazy. That game 7 with the rain delay and everything about how it happened. Rajai Davis's home run just made it look like, oh my gosh, and all of those kinds of things. So that was, I think, that was a really super fun moment, was to go to that. Like, I had a couple other little ones. I went to Yasiel Puig's first game as a Dodger, which he was so electric. That was really fun. A couple little things, but that game 7 for the Cubs, I think, was one of my best baseball memories.
Yeah, that's awesome. I have several moments like that with my kids and with friends, and a friend of mine drove up to game 6 of the Rangers Cardinals. And so, I mean, that, and I will probably repeat that I was there at every podcast I do, just because it's like, it is like the pinnacle of everything. But I mean, I tell people that is the greatest, worst game I've ever been to, just because I'm a Rangers fan. But
but it was such a good game.
Such a good game, and that's something I get to share with my friend, and so it's just that moment.
Well, really that's cool. Funny, because I went to the NLDS game last year that the Dodgers lost to the Nationals to lose that, and Clayton Kershaw coming out of the bullpen to face Adam Eaton with 2 guys on to end an inning was so fun. I mean, it was electric. Like, that's our guy. Like, I don't even care if it was the right decision in that moment. I wanted to see Clayton Kershaw pitch in that moment.
Right.
And that really ended badly. I mean, that really his last year.
Yeah.
You may remember the back-to-back home runs to Rendon and Soto.
Yeah.
But then the other one was, I went to game 2, I think it was, of the 2017 World Series. It was the same thing, which was Dodgers Astros, first Dodgers World Series. Since '88, that was like you just said, the greatest, worst game I've ever been to. That game was a slugfest with back and forth. George Springer, a couple home runs. The Dodgers were winning, and they ended up losing. And I left that game, actually, despite the Dodgers lost. They lost on a Springer bomb, I think it was. Of course, that's all very tainted in my mind now. 2017 Astros.
Yeah, we won't go there.
But this is about keeping baseball great, so
that's
we don't
right.
do that.
That's right.
Yeah. So that was the same thing, though. I just, like, the sheer joy of World Series baseball, even in a game that we lost, was just so fun.
That's
So
cool. That's really
yeah,
cool. Awesome.
yeah,
Well, so this next one is, you know, I've been able to coach my son with baseball, and even I got to play some little league growing up too. But what are some life lessons that you've been able to learn through baseball, or just being able to teach maybe too, in your life?
yeah. I find baseball to be a really rich source of reflection. Basically,
Mm,
I think maybe in some ways that are less touchy feely than you would think relative to how I've talked so far. But I mean, the actually one of my business partners and I like he played in the Yankee system in the minor leagues for a little bit. He's a deep baseball guy as well. We talk all the time about baseball analogies for like hiring and like organizational structure and training and development. Like this is where kind of my modern stat stat guy stat nerd like brain comes through is like
right.
just watching teams kind of try to solve the problem of like
Mm,
how to turn dollars into wins,
mm,
basically, which is a really particular problem to solve. Um, I've watched problem solving processes happen by very, very smart people. I mean, you think about the people running these teams now, it's like they're really, really, really smart folks. And so, sort of trying to watch some of those processes have been really interesting to me. I think thinking about what kind of talent you should and shouldn't
mm.
pay top dollar for, I think is a really interesting kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
What skills do you value? What skills are undervalued relative to a market? I think is actually a super interesting question. And so I kind of reflect on that a lot. But actually, more than even kind of more underneath the surface of all that is that I got my job initially in marketing and in digital marketing in particular via a fantasy baseball league. It was like basically learning baseball stats taught me how to think about the world statistically and
That's crazy.
probabilistically
Yeah.
and analytically, and that kind of sent me down the pathway into thinking about all kinds of things through the lens of numbers and stats. Um, and so I'm actually incredibly thankful. And I think the lesson I learned is that like maybe applied more broadly is that if you can find places that are sincere sources of interest for you, um, so that you can basically train your intellectual muscles in an area where that training is really fun for you.
Hmm.
There are enduring effects, ripple effects to all kinds of other areas of life, I think. So um, anything you're interested in, go find the best people and the smartest people, and how they're analyzing it and thinking about it. Approach the questions and the problems with sincere open-mindedness and curiosity and humility. Be willing to be wrong about stuff, and then listen to those sources. And if you can go kind of train those muscles to do that in those places, what I find is that it really has effects in the rest of my life, that I can approach a lot broader of a range of problems with a little more curiosity, humility, and maybe some more mental tools in my tool belt.
Yeah, man, I love that. I love that. That's a great take on comparing baseball to just life.
Yeah.
That's really good. Really good.
Yeah. It took me deep into like economics
Yeah,
and
yeah.
all kinds of other areas. As I'm watching everybody graph the coronavirus right now, like I just feel like I have a way better way of approaching those
Yeah.
graphs than I would have if it weren't for baseball. Honestly, like
Right, right.
I know like how to ask questions about sample size and about like all kinds of things that I just would not have otherwise known to
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
So yeah,
Well, and stuff like that I think a lot of, people that kind of question, like you said earlier, just baseball slow, there's nothing to it, like I think they're just kind of missing more than what just a game is, right? There's just a
yeah,
little more to it than just
yeah,
watching a guy hit a ball with a stick. So,
yeah, right, yeah,
that's really cool.
yeah,
Well, cool. So the next question. So especially with coronavirus going on, but baseball is always, and you've kind of seen over history, just the really cool ability to use their platform to be able to give back, and even on like a super small scale, like someone like me, just be able to give back through coaching my son's team and things like that. And so one of the things I found is like giving back really helps me love baseball even more. So have you had or seen or been a part of an opportunity of just giving back through baseball or anything like that?
yeah. I so one of the nice things about running a company is that there's some that creates those opportunities for sure. We get people reaching out all the time saying, "Hey, would you donate a wallet to this, our little league charity event auction, something like that. And so we get those requests all the time. We try to say yes to absolutely as many of them as we can. We're not a huge company, so we have
Yeah.
to be a little bit like, I would love to say that we had a giant war chest of cash where we could just say, yeah, sure, and just throw
There
it all
you
around,
go.
but we don't. Yeah, so there's definitely opportunities like that. And I've done some little league coaching, despite that my son is 5 months old, so he's not quite there yet. You may have heard him crying a little in the background there.
That's awesome.
We're living the full work from home life right now.
Love it.
But I've actually coached one of my best friends' son's team, and that was when he was 8, and now I'm sort of more formally a mentor to him, and that's a really fun
That's cool.
thing that I think probably wouldn't have happened if it weren't for being able to coach through baseball. I think I don't know. This is probably not quite the spirit of the question, but I just think of also like just how communal it is
Mm.
of a thing. So so to me, there's like something about the way that relationships are formed through a shared interest. I think this is um, I don't know if this is a gendered thing or not. I think it's especially been true in what I've seen in male relationships in my life, that like having kind of shoulder to shoulder things to do together
Mm.
really forms the ability to be a little more face to face with each other afterwards. So um, so that's I so maybe this is a way that baseball's given to me more than I'm giving back, but the kind of relational output and input in my life through a lot of friendships has happened a lot through shared love and interest in baseball. And so maybe in some of the ways that I've been able to give some of those friendships has been because of that. So
Mm.
maybe not quite exactly what you're asking, but it's what comes to mind.
No, I love that. I love, it's not always what you give, but a lot of times what you get,
Yeah,
and baseball itself gives a lot. And like exactly to what you said, just the ability to have conversations, to hang out and
yeah.
forge those relationships. That's
Yeah,
really
one of the
good.
things I know we're hoping to do with FC Goods is that like as we have um, more opportunity as we keep growing, that we would actually be able to really contribute in some other ways.
Mm.
I have a few little ideas for ways that we could maybe help minor leaguers make a little bit of money, which right now minor leaguers are just criminally underpaid.
Yeah, yeah.
They make less than minimum wage, and most of them don't make it to the major leagues. So we got a few little ideas for partnerships with that we're working on. And I know also we'd love to work with some museums and some of those kinds of
Mm.
places. There's you think of the Hall of Fame, but there's a million more of them. No, I would love to look at. We did some stuff in February for Black History Month with just kind of looking at the Negro Leagues and the influence on baseball. And like, I would love at some point to create a partnership with the Negro League Museum in Kansas City.
Yeah.
And there's a few other things like that to where we could potentially just kind of do that. So that comes with us keeping growing. Our ability to do that would come, I
Right.
think, with a little more size probably. We could do little things now for sure, but there's definitely hope. We'd be thrilled to do stuff like that in the future. So
That's
yeah.
awesome. That's awesome. Well, cool. Okay. Well, last question, and the best for last, and we've kind of, we've talked about a little bit. So they all kind of overlap a little bit, but baseball, just, for me, like I remember those Saturday mornings of This Week in Baseball. I mean, my favorite segment was the bloopers section, where they just show the bloopers. They show the guys messing around in the dugout, and just, I love that aspect of it. Kind of, again, going back to just the shared moments with the guys that it creates.
Yeah.
But what are some of your most fun moments you've been able to have through baseball?
Okay, so the greatest moment of my life, bar none, probably. My wife is in the other room,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
she knows I think this, so this is my already had the conversation. Um, is actually in a Sunday league, like a couple of years ago. I hadn't played baseball since high school, really, and I grew up like a really little, like I was a pretty good baseball player growing up, but I was like rail thin, really skinny all the way through high school. Played at a very small private school, so good for private school league, but didn't have any colleges coming and calling or anything like that. Um, and um, and so in my life, I was a good player, but I had never hit a home run ever over the fence. And then in Sunday league, like 2 years ago, maybe it was a little longer than that. I was just playing adult, baseball, and got to the in my first season playing, got to the bottom of, it was technically the eighth, but it was going to be the last inning because of time in a Sunday league.
Yeah.
Um, and my team was down by 1, and I came up. I'm a right-handed hitter. I came up against a lefty, um, and popped a home run. And I was as surprised as anybody. I couldn't believe. I mean, yeah, and hit a home run and was rounding the bases to tie the game in the last inning,
Oh
and
man.
that was my one home run of my life. And it was like I still just go, I can't believe how fun that was. Like to
Yeah.
be able to
Did
actually
you
do.
did you do the Kirk Gibson fist pump? Is the question.
No fist
Oh
bumps. I
man.
should have. I mean, that was probably my one chance. So like,
Yeah, that was
I should
it.
have. I wouldn't bet on it happening again. So,
Yeah,
um,
right.
but yeah, I just got a pitch, middle, and hit it hard. So
That's awesome.
pulled it all. I mean, obviously, right down the left field line.
Yep.
Clearly didn't go deep center or anything like that. And I think it was a bit of a wall scraper, to be honest.
That's awesome. Hey,
But yeah,
hey, in the
I'll take
scorebook,
it.
it's HR.
I know that's it. Yeah. So yeah. So that was yeah. That definitely is part of it. I mean,
That's
I
cool.
think now a lot of it for me, fun wise, is just like any of that kind of stuff. Playing any slow pitch I get to play, like just it's just such a fun outlet in the midst of like grown up life and
Yeah, yep.
everything else. Like just being able to go and play for an hour and a half. There's nothing else I
Right.
think I can do that feels like play like that. Like just where I just do it because it's just plain fun and I love it. And so yeah, all that stuff for me for sure is there. I'm sure there's some other like little moments along the way, but that's what comes to mind now is just all of that. And I mean, I still also just like love anytime I get to watch baseball. I've been satisfying that itch with watching some old games that I wasn't that
Oh
familiar with
man.
now. I watched the other day Nolan Ryan's seventh no hitter, 1991. So I was only 7 when it happened. I was familiar with Nolan Ryan's career, obviously, but I really had never watched him through the lens of like my modern fandom. And it was like, oh
Right.
my gosh, he was 44 years old and he was so good still.
Insane.
Yeah.
Insane.
So like stuff like that is super fun
Yeah.
too. So yeah,
Yeah, I was thinking about that not too long ago. I was like looking at his stats and how many years. I'm like,
it's crazy.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and
that's
you're a
nuts.
Rangers guy, right? So
Yeah.
did you get any of that? Were you a Rangers fan then? I don't know how old you are.
No, so actually I grew up a little bit in Colorado and then also in Houston. So I was in
Okay.
Houston during like the BGO Bagwell time, but I
Oh, that's
never,
awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
and they were fun to watch, but I never like grabbed onto them as like my team.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I got up to the DFW area, and I think a lot of my, you know, fandom doesn't really come around winning. It comes around like the guys and who they are.
Yeah.
And that's where I grabbed on the Rangers because like Maki Young, Beltray, all those guys like super likable. Elvis.
Yep.
So that's when I grabbed onto them. But I can't remember when this was, but it was probably around that same time. I think Nolan was going for his, what is it, 500th win?
Something like
300.
that. Yeah.
So yeah, but
No,
I went
500 is probably too many. Yeah, 300 probably. Yeah.
300. Yeah, 300 win. He's got so
Yeah.
many records. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But I went to the game where he was trying to get that win. Ended up getting no decision, but I remember that game, and I remember going with my family. It was like a big deal. So I remember
Yeah.
a little bit about Nolan.
Yeah.
But again, you're right. Not through the lens of what I have now.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Have you ever gone back and watched that seventh no hitter?
I haven't. No.
Yeah, highly recommend it. The whole thing's on YouTube, and actually, the only broadcast of it is the Blue Jays broadcast because it wasn't on Rangers local TV that night.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, I only found that out because the Blue Jays broadcast said so. But yeah, for any baseball fans out there who like want a little something fun to watch right now, like it's crazy. I don't want to spoil how many strikeouts he ends up with, but it's a lot, and the way he ends it, like, I mean, the amount, like, and there's no radar gun in the broadcast, so you can't tell exactly how hard he's throwing, but it's got to be in the mid 90s. He is throwing. He's 44, and it is gas. And I just
Yeah.
really didn't have an appreciation for how crazy his stuff was. I think it's another thing where like I think now people would just be losing their minds at like all of the like Statcast data and all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. People would
Yeah.
just be like, how is this guy 44? Because
Yeah.
they say in the start before he'd thrown 130 pitches. It's like 4 days before that or whatever. Like
Yeah.
he was just it's really something. It's really something to
And
watch.
no real injuries.
No, for
You
his
know what I
whole
mean?
career. Yeah,
Yeah, I think he finally retired because his arm. Yeah, well, yeah, you're almost
yeah,
50.
yeah.
So,
I think it was
uh,
his whole body. They actually
yeah,
talk about that on that broadcast about his fitness routine and just how hard he worked to stay in shape. And
Yeah.
but
I
it's
did.
really crazy. Arm side run, man. Like the fastball just has so much life. It's like
Yeah.
his curveball's super bitey. He's like he can run it away from guys on both sides of the plate. It's crazy.
I'll have to watch that.
Yeah.
I did watch there's a documentary called Fastball.
Uh-huh.
I think it's
I don't
on
know it.
Prime Video or something like that.
Cool.
But yeah, you got to check it out. It's all about trying to find out who has thrown the fastest fastball.
Yeah,
And
they do the Bob Feller thing, right?
yes, yeah. They
Yeah.
showed, they run a motorcycle. You start him way behind him, and he kind of tries to time it to throw at the same time. It's like, really? But
Yeah.
that's how they, and it shows the kind of the process on how they tried to mark how fast the
Yeah.
fastballs were as time goes on. And so, but Nolan, of course, is in there.
Yeah.
So it's really cool. Really
Yeah.
cool.
Well, yeah, and FCGoods, one of the things we do is just on our Instagram account, we'll just post at FCGoods, we'll just post like a couple times a month, sort of like little pieces of the and argue some of the best nicknames in baseball history. We'll just
Yeah.
do a
Oh, yeah.
little quick profile. Bob Feller, the heater from Van Meter, I think is
It's pretty good.
is a really strong nickname.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, that's a really
Yeah.
good one. So
I
yeah.
I'm a full advocate for nicknames.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I kind of want one for myself, but
The heater
what
from DFW probably doesn't work.
yeah,
So,
yeah, I
yeah.
don't know what I could do exactly, but I just love them. I
Yeah.
love them. So
Yeah. Well, there's such good ones, like some of the old ones. One thing we're coming up with, we're going to do a new limited edition series in the next month or so. So keep an eye out for that. But maybe this is a little spoiler, but one of the guys whose name has come up in our research is Albert Bosky in the 70s, who I was
okay.
not familiar with, relief pitcher. But that's the Mad Hungarian is
Oh,
a
nice.
pretty good nickname too, I think. So yeah. So
That's really cool.
yeah.
Well, cool, man.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for answering those questions.
Super fun.
Yeah, I love seeing how people's love for baseball is kind of shaped within those questions, and so it's really cool. But before we go, give our listeners kind of a quick where can they find FC Goods at and all that good stuff.
Yeah, it's at FCGoods on social. FCGoods.com is the site. I would say, yeah, if you really want to see some of the storytelling kind of stuff we do, it's a lot of times through our limited edition series, which we do every so often. We've got some stuff coming up for Father's Day that'll be, I think, really cool in that respect. So yeah, I'm really excited about our next one actually. So you can go kind of back through the archives there and see some of the stuff we've done. Sometimes players focus. One time we found a guy who was doing something similar to us in St. Louis, that passed away of cancer, and so we were able to acquire all of his old gloves and then
Oh
do
wow,
a series out of the old gloves that he'd acquired,
I saw that. Yeah.
and name it after him. So like that was a cool thing just to kind of
Mm.
see somebody else who has sort of shared some passions. So yeah, so there's a lot of stuff like that. So fcgoods.com, at fcgoods on Instagram and Twitter, and I think it's just Fielder's Choice Goods on Facebook. So all the
Cool.
usual spots you can find us.
Awesome.
And like I
Yeah.
said, use the code Keep Baseball Great, and we'll monogram any of our stuff for free. There's wallets,
Sweet.
but there's also luggage tags and toiletry bags and all kinds of stuff. So
Yeah, yeah. And for the listeners, man, there's one video on there that you showed. Uh it was just a story. I mean, I think you did a personal glove for a guy, and then you videoed
oh
it
yeah, Ray
going to his
Cordova,
house.
yeah.
Yeah, and I was just like, man, it's dusty in here, and I gotta go.
Yeah. Okay.
But
So that's on our custom project. That's
right,
passive customer. So that story is 100% true. Like you always wonder, um, like some of the first pastime custom gloves we did, Walt, we did, was this guy Ray, and who had his whole relationship with his dad built with the lens of baseball. We had asked our customers like, hey, we're going to do this for somebody. Somebody tell us why we should do it for you for free, basically. And so
that's
Ray
cool.
reached out to us, and it turned out he was right down the street from us in Long Beach, in the
Oh
city where
wow.
we were founded, which was like crazy. And
Yeah.
then turned out Ray is the best guy ever. Like, and his relationship with his dad is awesome. He had his whole sort of man cave kind of space where he was watching tons of baseball, and so go check that video out. It's sort of this father son story, and what we were able to accomplish with his dad's gloves and the products we were able to give him ended up really, really beautiful. And it was like it was exactly the kind of guy you'd want to end up doing that thing for.
Yeah.
We were really thrilled about it. So
Yeah, it's
Ray's
really
become
good.
a good friend of ours. So yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Thanks so much, Andrew. And of course, thanks for keeping baseball great.
Drew, thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it a lot.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for listening for our interview with Andrew and Fielder's Choice Goods. Be sure to follow them on social media and check out their website. And also, don't forget to use that code. Thanks again for listening. Make sure you subscribe. And until next time, keep baseball great.